a dramatic game down in a Bayou City, Houston, Texas. Argentina just getting past Ecuador 4-2 on penalties after a 1-1 draw over 90 minutes. Welcome into our LA studios alongside Ali Krieger, Casey Keller, Hercules Gomez. I'm Sebastian Salazar. This is episode 376 of this fine program, and we got a lot to get to. We got Jurgen Klopp, ladies and gentlemen, flirting with the entire country of the United States on social media, okay? We're going to update you on that. We've got some shots fired at Mexican football, but not from this side of the world, okay? From Spain. Interesting comments there. Plus, we have a potential scandal. Maybe I should throw out the word potential. A scandal brewing in the National Women's Soccer League, not far from here, just a couple hours south in San Diego. We'll get to that, of course, later in the show as well. But we got to start with the game that just ended between Argentina and Ecuador. Maybe not an instant classic for the first 90 minutes, but what a dramatic ending in this one. Some doubts whether Lionel Messi would start in this game. He did. He played the full 90 minutes. Lautaro Martinez also getting the start over Julian Alvarez, but it was actually Lisandro Martinez that scored for Argentina in the first half, giving them a 1-0 lead. They held it till stoppage time when Ecuador got a header goal in the 91st minute to equalize. From there, as you know, we go straight to penalties. Messi missed the first penalty, but so did Mena for Ecuador. Then Julian Alvarez converted for Argentina. Dibu Martinez then made a second straight stop, and from there it was all Argentina. Again, they win 4-2 on penalty kicks. For more on this game, let's welcome in Alejandro Moreno. Ale, I'll start with you. Were Argentina lucky to survive this quarterfinal against Ecuador?
100% they were lucky. 100% they were lucky. Argentina so very fortunate to get through onto the next round. Let me just say, we saw a side of Ecuador that we hadn't seen in this Copa America, and we saw a side of Argentina that we haven't seen in years. Man, they were bad. Look, let's start with Lionel Messi, because every conversation starts and ends with Lionel Messi when we're talking about Argentina. I'm pretty sure, Seb, I'm certain that you watching a Mexico game do more running than Lionel Messi did today. I'm certain of that. I am sure of it.
Shots fired.
And look, I don't honestly, that's the way that Lionel Messi has been playing now for some time with Argentina. That it's a slow jog and the walk and so on and so forth. And you're willing to live with that if you're Argentina, if you're controlling the midfield. But man, were they not struggling in the midfield. They were struggling, dragging in the midfield. I would say only Alexis McAllister at the very least is getting on the ball and tackling somebody. When you see Enzo Fernandez play in the manner in which he played today, you wonder how he ends up at Chelsea, and you wonder how this player actually is a starter for the Argentina national team. When you see Rodrigo de Paul, who I love as a player, but most of the time he was trying to draw fouls, get hit upside the head, but no substance to his game. No passing of the ball, no possession, no sense of control. And why is that important? Well, because if you're not controlling the midfield and you have a guy in Lionel Messi that is essentially walking, then this team is completely out of sync. They're off balance. And when you're off balance and you got a mismatch in terms of numbers through the midfield, which Ecuador did, they had the superiority in terms of numbers. They pushed the tempo, they pushed the game forward, and Argentina couldn't do anything about it. Argentina were hanging on at the end of the game. They were lucky to get into the penalties. They are lucky to advance. They are lucky they're into the semifinals. And Lionel Messi, as I said before, you start and end the conversation with Argentina when it comes to Lionel Messi. Then he goes and takes a penalty and misses it as well. It wasn't a good night for him. It wasn't a good night for a lot of players in Argentina, but it's a great night for Dibu Martinez. He gets his team through onto the next round, and they're in the semifinals.
Casey, I feel like that's the story here at the end of the day with Argentina. It's usually Messi, but here it's Dibu Martinez. How impressed are you in him as a goalie?
Well, I love the way he plays. I think hopefully the antics kind of run its course, and he can just let his playing lead to the praise.
Don't you think the antics are a little bit part of the persona?
Some of it is, but I think
strategy. He's throwing the ball at guys in the penalty shootout. He's yapping. I mean, Ener Valencia misses a penalty.
Sure.
That's not somewhat down to who Dibu Martinez is and the antics that some people don't like?
But you also have to look at the penalty. The no look, just walk up and... Okay, who was it? The third taker who just walked up and smashed it into the top corner?
Yes, for Ecuador,
Yeah, okay. I don't care who you are.
Right.
No antics are gonna help you in that case. It's just a good penalty. So to me, it's just not my style. It's just not what I just like. Look like you've been there. Look like you know what you're doing, and then let your team, let your game, because his game's good enough to not have to do these things. He made 2 decent saves in the first half, 1 very nice save in the first half when they were playing horrible. Argentina was playing terrible, giving possession away in midfield over and over and over again. A good goalkeeper can paper over a lot of cracks. And it's not like Argentina has a lot of cracks. But today they did. And today they needed their goalkeeper to have the game to bail them out of the poor performance. And then, okay, Ecuador misses the header at the end. That could have, okay, then we don't go to penalties. So then what do you need? You need your good goalkeeper to come up with a couple saves in the penalty shootout so everybody forgets about the horrible performance from your arguably, if not one of the best players of all times, who has a terrible match and then misses the penalty when you needed him to, and it was your goalkeeper that came up with the saves to take care of it for you.
Terrible match for Messi. Is that harsh? Herc?
No, it's not. He had 32 touches on the ball. And half the time he was on the field, I didn't know he was on the field.
Herc, I take 32 touches if 2 or 3 of them are decisive.
That's exactly right. In the final third, listen, I was sitting here saying, I don't know if he should have played this game. I think he's still injured. I think he's still nursing that injury. He could never get past that first gear. He never turned it on in the final third like we know Messi can turn it on. Now, this field was atrocious.
Yeah, terrible.
A terrible
Truly
field.
terrible.
It was.
Hurt Ecuador on that one break. Yeah.
Of course. But certainly, with the way that Argentina plays for Messi, allowing him to walk, with the midfield that they have, with all those players working for him, you would have thought Messi would have had that change of pace, would have had that one moment in the game. And it didn't. Credit to Ecuador, who took advantage very well in the midfield, in the numbers they put in there, and how Gresso came in and settled them. Caicedo, who was at an underwhelming tournament for a player that's worth over $140 million. This tournament has not been his. Looked better today. This was a team that came out to play and had their advantages. And if not for Jordi Caicedo, who comes in at the end, missing a point-blank header, they walk away. They're going on to the next round. It's not Argentina and penalty kicks. We're having a different discussion. Now, going back to Dibu Martinez, if I could very briefly, I do think it's Dibu Martinez that gets in Enner's head because Enner wants to prove something. Let me know, look at on this guy now.
Right.
Got in his head, missed, and it's Dibu Martinez again, and we've seen this many times.
The guy with that much, that much experience.
And he got in his head.
I know.
And he got in his head.
If he did, then
and
that's
look
a shame.
how decisive Dibu Martinez has been. World Cup final. The massive kick save to save the game.
He had a big kick save in the first half here.
Yeah,
Big kick save here.
He was
good. He is the best goalkeeper, international goalkeeper in the game today. We look at the Euros, we look at Copa America. There's no more decisive goalkeeper on all facets of the game. His distribution, the way his leadership.
The impact in the last couple tournaments has been tremendous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What did you see tonight from Argentina, Allie?
I was surprised because I thought the game was going to be so predictable that Argentina was going to come out and actually have a comfortable win. Yeah, Ecuador was going to be a threat here and there like we did see in the first half, but that was because Argentina couldn't keep the ball and their distribution was poor. And like Ali had mentioned, McAllister in the middle of the field, I was also surprised that, or he mentioned Enzo, but I was looking at McAllister making, just having missed passes and careless mistakes where you look to him as being the 6 who can spray the ball and he can connect and make sure that the lines are, moving cohesive. And tonight it just seemed like very lackluster and not like they usually perform. And it wasn't like a qualifier or a quarterfinal performance from them. Like they didn't want to come out and solidify it to get to the semifinals. It seemed like they were just lackluster. And Martinez, the goalkeeper, was definitely the best player, hands down. And they got lucky in the end. For them to last, into the PKs and finish out the way that they did, they were very lucky. And Ecuador could have had that chance in the end and finished it. But Argentina, they showed up in the PKs and Martinez came up big for them to save it.
Alan, no goals yet for Messi, plus he misses the penalty, obviously, in the shootout. How worried should Argentina fans be about his performance in this moment?
I thought, after having seen him play against Chile, and according to him, he felt something, they sat him for the game against Peru. I felt like him coming out and playing today, the reason that he would play was because whatever he felt wasn't a big deal. I'm beginning to rethink that theory. I'm beginning to rethink that approach because the truth of the matter is he wasn't moving. And I suppose that if you're Lionel Messi, you don't have to move and still have an impact in the game. I suppose. But I'm getting to the point to where I don't care who you are. This game requires movement. And at the very basic level, this game requires movement, because if you're not moving with or without the ball, you become a whole lot easier to defend. And there was no movement from Lionel Messi. So what worries me is that whatever he's got, maybe it's lingering, and quite frankly, it affects the way that he plays, and it affects the way that the team plays, because usually, even in the games where he's not playing well or not scoring a goal, he's the natural outlet. When somebody's under pressure through the midfield, they find Messi, and he is the one that can find that little touch, that precision pass, that splitting pass, that pass in between lines. He is the outlet. And if he's not moving, then he can't be the outlet. And if he can't be the outlet, then we have turnovers through the midfield. And if we have turnovers through the midfield, then we have pressure on the back line. And if you have pressure on the back line, eventually you're going to break down. Argentina, I cannot tell you how incredibly fortunate that they're going through. And not only the players, Lionel Scaloni as well. Some of his decisions today, I'm thinking, my goodness, look, we are sitting miles and miles away from the match, but we can tell Enzo Fernandez is struggling. We can tell Rodrigo de Paul is struggling. We can tell that you need help in the midfield. And it takes forever to make these changes. And even when you make these changes, when you actually realize, you know what? We're lucky. We're hanging on instead of making more defensive substitution. Look, if you have to take Lionel Messi off the field, you take Lionel Messi off the field because he's not helping you defensively or offensively. Apparently that can't happen, but I just have to say, they were playing a man down defensively and they were playing a man down offensively today. It's difficult to win like that, especially when your midfield is not playing as well as they should.
Okay, so you think this is a blip or a sign of a weakness that might cost Argentina this tournament?
Well, we're going to find out in the semifinal, because I mean, I think it's a great case, because to Ali's point, you have to be so good if you're playing a man down, particularly without the ball. Mm-hmm. So then what you need is those impact moments that Messi has been able to create over the last couple of years when he can't do the other things. And then you take away those impact moments, and you take away those moments where you're able to at least slide into a position. How many times did we see a bad pass where it looked like, oh, that's where Leo's going to be? They pass it, and there's nobody there but an Ecuadorian player. So if you're playing to a particular rhythm, or to a particular, at least an idea of where he's going to be, and he's no longer there, it's going to make it so much more difficult when you play against an even better team than Ecuador, because that's when it's really going to become apparent. Now, we haven't seen a Brazil yet that has really been able to turn the corner. We've seen an Uruguay side that, if they can get past Brazil, could be that team that could say, all right, you play that poor against us, and we're going to punish you hard.
Again.
Colombia as well.
Again.
Yeah.
Uruguay is the only team that's beaten Argentina since the World Cup. Listen, maybe today it wasn't the glaring weakness in the team. It was more the midfield. It was more these players that we just mentioned. But from the first game versus Canada, whether it's left back, the right back, Molina, Cunha, Tagliafico, whoever's in there on the flanks, they struggle mightily. I'm thinking right now they're going on to a semi versus Venezuela or Canada. Mm-hmm. Venezuela, you've got players like Soteldo, you got players like Salomon, you got players like Bello who have been very good and are very dynamic. Canada, you got players like Davies, you got players like David, a Jonathan David, you got a player like a Schafferberg. Like, they can hurt an Argentina that today looked like it was not only lacking intensity, but the desire to go out and compete. If they're not on their game versus one of these two teams, they can lose. That's a reality. If they play like they played today, they can lose.
One of the big decisions today from the manager was to start Lautaro Martinez instead of Julian Alvarez. The numbers coming into this game suggested that was the right call. What we saw over the 90 minutes, does it give us another conclusion? Should it go back to being Julian? I think Ale made a great point in our ESPN FC hit. There's a reason Julian plays over Lautaro, despite some of the differences in productivity at club level, because he does a little bit of the running that you need to
Correct.
cover for a Messi. And maybe that's some of what we saw tonight.
And I've been saying I don't think Messi's fit, and Ali just echoed that.
Yeah.
So I don't think it matters.
So, well, no, that means you need Julian instead of Lautaro,
that
right?
means he doesn't have that next gear to make it count. The only time that Messi today was a factor was on a set piece, you know, where I believe it was McAllister that flicks it on and isn't being Lisandro Martinez in the back door. That's the only time he was a factor here. That's the only time we even mentioned him. Other than that, it's getting fouled here. It's not looking like he can go at a guy there. It's missing the penalty in penalty kicks. If he's the same Messi, I don't think it matters who's next to him. This is a situation now where the 9 is only as good as the opportunities that he has in front of goal. Lautaro didn't have an opportunity in front of goal. Lautaro was good in the first game.
He never had the ball enough to actually create something to do that.
Exactly. So I don't think it matters who the 9 is. And I did this about the time that Lautaro comes off the field and Julian comes on, Messi had 21 touches. 21 touches. So if the 9 is dependent on what Messi can do and he only gets the ball 20 times and it's the 65th minute, it doesn't matter who the 9 is. If Messi can't get going, the 9 won't matter.
One of the interesting things about this game is the format, I think, right? You play 90 minutes and everybody who's not following the tournament is maybe expecting extra time. Instead, you go straight to penalties. Do you like that, Allie?
Well, probably for me, we were laughing in the green room a little bit because I don't love taking penalty kicks, but I also, sometimes don't want to continue to, waste energy and time playing. When you're in a big tournament like this, then you have to play 7 games. You should try to rest and recover as quick as possible. So the PK situation right after the game also makes sense. But I do like to finish the game within, the extra time.
And I think it definitely has an impact on like the approach from the teams, right?
I mentioned that earlier.
You can tell, right? Especially if you're Ecuador, you're the underdog. You feel a lot better about trying to get a draw over 90 minutes than 100, I would imagine.
No, I agree. And they had a great opportunity here. Unfortunately, they didn't, finish on that opportunity. But they were probably very excited for that and not have to go again in another 30.
Ale, straight to penalties. Do you like that in Copa America?
Well, can I just tell you that this is how weird and strange this game was and how unlike what we were expecting, that Ecuador, who we mentioned in the ESPN FC show earlier today, would probably, they would be happy coming into this match in lengthening the game, in slowing it down, in absorbing pressure, and getting this to penalty kicks. That would have been potentially their best chance to win the game. And I can just tell you, the way that the game was played, Ecuador would have loved to have had extra time. They would have loved to have had an extra 30 minutes, because if anybody had momentum, it was them. So amazingly, the team that we thought would be happy with penalties, apparently not so happy. Because the truth is, all the momentum was with them. They were creating chances. Argentina were dragging. They were hanging on. And to answer your question, I actually don't like straight to penalties. I think once you get into the knockout stage, the idea of the extra time creates a different dynamic and gives the game a different dynamic. When you go in straight to penalties, I do believe there will be matches in which teams will try to play for penalties in the 90 minutes. And it's one thing to try for 90 minutes, it's a completely different thing to try it for 120 minutes. So it rewards the negativity of certain teams, and I suppose what would be a very conservative approach, a very sort of speculating with the result. Whereas with 120 minutes, it's a whole lot more difficult to keep that at a 0. I don't like it in general, and I don't think Ecuador likes it today after having played the match that they played, even though coming into this match, they probably would have felt different about it.
To Ali's point, look at Venezuela, Canada, the winner out of that team. You got to be thinking, if I can get to penalties, I got a shot. Not like, let's play heads up against a great team. Yeah, I think first thought, I agree.
It plays to the underdog, and I think it definitely tells the underdog, hey, like, be conservative.
Yeah.
Don't try to go out and win this game. Just hold on as long as possible. I think you're going to see some, I don't want to say boring, but very cagey soccer over the next 2 nights.
You can see cagey soccer. How about the other side of that coin? What about the not compromising the health of the players? Some of these players are playing over
I agree with that.
55, 60 games a season. Now you're going to bring them on to grass over turf, these heavy fields.
I don't disagree with you. I would say cut some of the useless club games during the season. And
Well,
that's a different. I love the international tournaments. I want 30
absolutely.
more minutes here as opposed to another Carling Cup match or whatever's going on.